ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of World of Tanks with me, Gitbag the Great. Not too much of a specific video of World of Tanks today. I don't really have that much time to build one up anyway. I mean, I'm just going to be picking out a few funny bits and bobs and maybe one or two actual proper replays that I've been having recently. But I think first off, we'll just start off with this nice little snippet I had in the ST1 on Arctic region. The ST1 is, of course, one of the two Tier 9 Soviet heavy tanks and is brutally strong. It's the Tier 9 heavy tank you get on your way to the IS-4, whereas with the IS-8 you get that on your way to the Tier 10 IS-7. And now, the thing is, I thought here, right, I'm not going to get anything from going toe-to-toe with these guys, so I'll just hook down and take out this WZ who's holding up my friendly T10 and set him on fire. Give him a little ram. I thought, alright, might as well give him a bit more of the treatment. Puts him on fire again. IS-7 comes in and rams him, and then the T10 ammo-racks him. I mean, my god, what do you say to that? I mean, you expect when you're going onto a map like Arctic region, which isn't too bad for heavy tanks, in something like the T10, or the WZ, or something like that, reasonably good, low-profile Tier 9 or 10 heavy tank. So, you have something of a decent game, but I mean, my god, to get set on fire twice by ST1 and then ammo-racked by a T10, it's just. I hope that guy had some coffee and painkillers nearby, because he would have probably needed it, seriously. But I just wanted to start off with that little snippet and, so, just break the ice, so to speak. Oh dear. But, yeah, I just thought I'd start off with a little funny bit there and then move on into the rest of the video, so let's go. Okay, so after many eons of trying to get together a good replay, I finally got together a half-decent one. This is, of course, Himmelsdorf with me in the KV-2, the Tier 6 Soviet heavy tank that is also known as Strong Tank, because KV-2 is best tank in-game. KV-2 will conquer every tank in-game. KV-2 cannot be beaten by purely little British capitalist tanks. KV-2 is greatest tank of all time. And, well, I mean, of course really isn't, because in real life this thing actually kind of sucked, and it was a massive failure against the Finns, who the Russians designed it to go up against, because, well, I mean, the Russians kind of lacked that kind of depth of impact infantry support sort of vehicle, and so they designed the KV-2 to a degree to help with punching through the entrenched defences of the Finnish army during the Winter War of 1938 to 1941, and to an ends to a means, the Russians developed the KV-2, and it was a massive failure. And then they relocated it to the Eastern Front, where they were fighting the Germans, and it actually did quite well. This was actually a decent machine on the Eastern Front, but particularly. Oh wait, have a look at this. Aiming in on this comet, ammo-racked him on 900 health. That is just disgusting. And I mean, the thing is, that's the thing about the KV-2. It's stupid and shit, kind of like it is in real life, but it's also brilliant, again, kind of like it was in real life. I mean, the KV-2 does not have great penetration on its high explosive ammunition, but it's just enough to punch through the armour of things like the Comet, the Cromwell and things like that. And the Comet, I think, must have already had a damaged ammo rack, so I just immediately sort of ammo racked him on over 900 health there, which was just beautiful. So, decided to hook around and take on this M6, and really, I mean, I didn't do spectacularly well in this replay, but at the same time I did well enough in order to put it into a video, I think, and that. Fucking hell, that ammo rack I just think was good enough anyway. So aiming on the back of this turret of this M6, annihilate him completely. And so I realised the Stug 3 is the last one who poses a threat to me. And it the last moments of this game just ended up being this intense little duel between me and the Stug 3. He almost kills me, then I take cover behind the Skoda, neatly wiggle and waggle, quickly try to aim in, boom, taken out, and almost accidentally end up killing my Stug 3, but goddamn was that fantastic. Right, so originally I planned to make this a video about tier 9 heavy tanks, but unfortunately most of the games I had today, aside from the one in the ST1 at the beginning of this video, were garbage, so I just decided to pick a bunch of tanks that I usually do well in and have a lot of fun in, and I don't know, just make something around them. And so I decided to cap off this video with another Soviet heavy tank replay. This time the tier 5 Soviet premium heavy tank, the Churchill 3. Now the Churchill 3 was actually developed and manufactured by the British, but as a part of the Lend-Lease program, whereby the British and Americans sent hundreds of thousands, if not millions of tons of ammo, planes, tanks and other military surplus to Russia, including multiple variations and thousands of trucks. The Churchill 3 was included among those. Now the Churchill 3 was a pretty good model of the Churchill tank itself, and it saw extensive use throughout the Italian campaign and other Western Front centric sort of operations during the Second World War, but it was also featured to certain degrees in the Soviet army on the Eastern Front. Now the sight of the Churchill 3 on the Eastern Front was a bit of a rare one, because it wasn't as widely produced as the T-34 and Sherman, which were of course very widely used as well by the Soviets, but at the same time it did see some extensive use, particularly during the battles of Leningrad and also the counter-attacks over the Oder. So it was a pretty well-used tank by the Soviets, and it did to some degree adhere to their doctrine of close-quarter, heavily armoured, brawling sort of machines, in that it was very heavily armoured at the front and it was good at close ranges, as you can see here. The 6-pounder gun on this thing in World of Tanks is not the most accurate, but it has good enough penetration, and with its APCR especially so. And so when you get yourself up close and personal, it can really do some serious damage with the ridiculously high fire rates on this thing. And to some degree it is a brawler, but also to some degree it's a mid-range sniper. It really is hard to say really, but I personally believe it's best used as a brawler, because it just isn't accurate enough to be a full-on sniper like, say, something like the Conqueror is at tier 9, or the I know the Tiger 1 is at tier 7. It's a pure up brawler for me personally. It's got good frontal armour for a tier 5 heavy tank, and its gun is not as punchy as something like, say, the BDRG-1B or the KV-1, or hell, even the German tier 5 heavy tank, which is a terrible machine, by the way. I wouldn't recommend it. But this is still a pretty good brawler. It's got good frontal armour, and I mean the frontal armour isn't the best designed, but it's quite thick, and against like comparable tier 5 heavy tanks it can do a lot of damage with its frontal armour, and the sheer rate of fire of that gun is just worth the price of admission anyway. I think at the moment it's only a few hundred gold on the World of Tanks gift shop, and I think in the actual gift shop on the website it's about it's only a few quid, like it's only about 5 or so. So I definitely recommend picking this one up, especially if you're new to World of Tanks. I wouldn't say start off immediately with a high tier premium like the Lerva or the Super Pershing, because they do cost quite a bit of money, and I would only recommend getting them once you've gotten to about tier 7 or so, or forwards from that, so you can really make the most of their money making capabilities. But the Churchill 3 is a pretty good machine, and it's certainly good for those who are new to the game, because it's a very straightforward machine to use really, and I mean I like it. It's a pretty good brawling heavy tank, but at the same time don't overestimate the power of its armour, because especially when it gets into some tier 6 matches it can get beaten quite soundly. But as you can see on a urban map like, of course, good old Rurenberg, it can do a lot of damage, and hopefully this one match will show you at least what a tank like the Churchill 3 will do in a game where you are close enough to not really worry about accuracy. And that, I guess, is kind of also the meta point of this entire video, because I never really had a point for this video in the first place. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, as I did try my best to get together some, you know, good replays for you all. and hopefully you did have a good time watching it as much as I did, you know, playing it and putting it together. So, of course, until next time, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video and have fun. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Take care in whatever you're doing. And, of course, until next time, I'm Gitbag the Great, and I'll see you guys on the battlefield.